Welcome, Strikers, to another Omega Strikers lore video. Today we'll be discussing lore theories and stuff that I like to describe as loose lore. Now, loose lore is stuff that it's lore theories based on lore that exists, and it's loosely kind of suggested, or maybe if you read between the lines, that's kind of what it's telling you, but it's loose lore because it's not set in stone. Reading between the lines isn't technical lore until they release it as permanent. So let's get right into the video, starting out with Rasmus. We know Rasmus's assistant in this comic frame is working for Clarion Corp, and we know that a Clarion Corp member is coming to Omega Strikers soon. But is it this cane or umbrella wielding character? It seems like the most obvious bet. A question that I personally have is linked to Rasmus's history. To set the stage, we know Rasmus and Estelle dated. In fact, Lunchboy also confirmed this. It's also in Rasmus's voice line.
Estelle! Ah, yes, this takes me back.
I have questions whether this voice line is only suggestive of them dating. I think it suggests that they also teamed up together, and he was one of the members of the championship team that Kai, Era, and X overthrew. It only makes sense in my mind, as he only says it when they're on the same team in a pre-match screen, and not when they're enemies. So is this umbrella-wielding character the third member of that championship team? If he comes out as a goalie, I would imagine that my thoughts on this were all correct. In the Discord, I saw a few people speculate that the unknown man is X's brother. Probably because we know that X's brother was also strong as hell and can probably potentially survive the Omega exposure, but I don't personally think this is the case, but it's interesting nonetheless. It did also come out that we do in fact know who this person is, and that he's been mentioned before, or that he's mentioned somewhere in the lore. Though off of the top of my head, I can only think of a few people, and that's like Juliet's parents, Kai's dad, Atlas and Luna's parents, Rune's boyfriend, best friend, X's brother, Asher's siblings, Zentaro's grandparents, and of those two, his grandfather seems to be the only one that could potentially be in the Core Strike games. And then there's Finney's parents and Finney's butler. Of all of these, the two likely would be like Finney's butler or X's brother. And remember, this is off the top of my head. I'm actually still doing continuous digging on this character. So who the heck could he be other than the third champion? At least in my mind, I mean, I could be way off and be wrong here. In my mind, Rasmus and Estelle were dating because they're in close proximity and they were both rich, both famous. It's something that's relatable. It makes sense if they were both champion on the same team. It just makes sense to me. A little add-on to this lore is that I think Estelle's nurse outfit is in reference to Rasmus. Hell, the Clarion Corp symbol turned sideways even kind of looks like a flower. I think that the nurse outfit is a timeline where she actually was helping him secretly. But in current timeline, when they dated, how much did she really know about him? Was it before he was doing experiments on others? Did he change because of the nature of his experiments and that's why they broke up? How two-faced can he act? And to what end was his relationship with Estelle? Did he really feel anything for her? I personally don't think so. It probably just looked good for business, and him being in the champion spotlight put him in position to see the newest up-and-comers. Another reason why I really do think he was probably champ once. The idea that Estelle is fighting an evil side is kind of an interesting take, seeing as how Juliet is the quintessential poster girl. She's like happy, hardworking, optimistic, kind-spirited. She looks up to Estelle. It's a really fun concept if her hero was actually like harboring these evil thoughts. Or maybe the nurse outfit is actually canon in the fact that she was complicit in helping Rasmus and knew what was going on. But who knows? That's why it's a lore theory. So keeping kind of in theme with Rasmus, I'd like to touch on this more. Right now, anyone who is exposed to Omega energy either dies or is super buff. The people who die get disfigured and warped. But what would happen if someone actually survived this horrible disfigurement process? Can Rasmus make some super powerful monsters like a Frankenstein monster? People that the pain warped their minds and warped their bodies, but they became these gross amalgamations of muscle and monster. What happens if we were to do this to Rune, for example? Would the Obscura demon let Rune die, or would it be able to influence the change? Maybe the demon attached would become immensely powerful, and this could actually be the goal of the demon. What if the reason that the demon wants him to win is so that Rasmus notices him? Then he'll be at the top of Rasmus's list and he gets exposed to Omega, and then the Omega buffs the demon. This theory is unfortunately probably not the case, as the demon would likely make it Rune's mission to volunteer himself to Rasmus and just circumvent the whole winning thing, which would be way harder. So the real reason has to be something much more obscura. My best guess is that the demon wants to become the next champion and acquire a huge fan base, so that once it does eventually take over Rune completely, it's worshipped as if it's a god on Earth. Maybe that worship will then give him more power, or at the very least, people would be willing to give themselves up to be devoured by him. And then he could likely form a cult around himself. It's not too far-fetched, because we have examples today in, like, Scientology. It seems like the most obvious answer to me, but I'm just a human with human ideas, and it's possible the demon's plans are more grand than I could fathom. So, finally moving on from Rasimus, it's time for some lore that most agree is set, and I have suspicions on, personally. So, Finny says to Dubu,
"Are you part rabbit too, Dubu?"
So, Finny claims she's a half bunny, but I have doubts about this. For one, we're led to believe that these are ears on the top of her head under her hat, but this could very easily be gelled hair. We've never seen what the sides of her head looks like. We haven't seen if there's human ears under there. Does she have human ears and bunny ears? I kind of don't think so. It's impossible to know without full confirmation, but let me ask you this. When was the last time you wore the skin or features of another human as a style? Think about it. Why does she push so much of her identity around bunny-related things? If you have bunny ears, why do you have two massive bunny ears on your hat? Why not just accentuate your own? Why decorate your jester outfit and wand with what would be your bunny tail? It seems kind of messed up. If you are a bunny, why do you need shoes that are specifically designed to look like bunny shoes? Why wouldn't she just wear form-fitting bunny shoes or be barefooted? I speculate it's childish wonder that led to this. It's an imagination of her lack of good parenting that led her to find comfort in something, and she over-obsessed about it. Think about when you were a kid. Personally, I do think Finny's parents are both human, and I think she's a big figure. The theme of rabbit out of a hat was too convenient for her to ignore. So she personified that and took the identity of a rabbit and let it become her personality. I think Finny is just a quasi-furry. I'm sorry, I'll say it. I'm possibly way out of pocket with this one, I know. But the idea hit my mind and I had to run with it. I even say in my team's lore video that she's just a human, so it would suck if I spent all that time doing research and I was wrong without having some reason to back it up. All right, now hold on to your seats because I have a weird lore theory here, so you're gonna have to bear with me. SSR and Bite Breakers are full of prodigies that the lore just seems to have forgotten about. It talks about how impressive it is that Kai was in Pro League by 15 years of age, right? But if he was such a prodigy, how come it doesn't mention Luna, Zentaro, and Finny, also super prodigies? They're super young. I'd also include Juno and Aimee in this, but we don't really have an age for Juno, and Aimee is suggested to be older by Finny's voice line.
Isn't it hilarious that everyone thinks we're the same age, Aimee?
Plus, we don't know what age level of knowledge Aimee came out of. She was literally an open AI, so she could be like an adult mindset. With this in mind, I also think Bite Breakers isn't really officially Pro League, coupled by the fact that Finny found Aimee and Zentaro in the Pro League qualifiers. We don't know what the qualifier entails, but if Aimee and Zentaro went without a third, then do we have to assume that you qualify as an individual rather as a team? So what would happen if one individual qualified and another didn't, and you're a team? So I have to think that maybe it is team-based, right? But if you do qualify as a team, why the heck were they there as a duo? You wouldn't go to a qualifier expecting to meet a solo going to a qualifier that requires 3, right? I guess it has to be that the qualifiers are independent based. And in fact, if you comb through Aimee, Zentaro, and Finny's bio, you actually don't see word of them qualifying. For Zentaro, it just says that he was convinced to play and he would like to earn fame and fortune doing so. Aimee thinks that she can become a champ, but there's no mention of her being in Pro League, and Finny's only mention is again in the qualifiers. At least Asher met Luna and Juno in the amateur leagues, which makes way more sense. Teams probably swap up players all the time when they're doing pickup games, just like we do in the Discord all the time. It's probably the same thing. You swap teammates around. It also says that SSR did in fact qualify for Pro League, so that's set in stone. Since SSR is Pro League, is Luna older than 15 and just looks really young? I feel like when I look at Luna, I'm seeing someone younger than 15. We already know there's super prodigy because of her inventions, and she's really insanely smart. She's born of insanely smart parents and even trained an alien. Why does the lore gloss over that Luna is this somehow insane super prodigy, yet does nobody know? Where's all the Luna fans out there? It specifically says in the lore, strangely enough, that nobody but Asher really wanted to address playing with kids unless it was the case of somebody with a really big name. Kai had a really big name. People were looking up to him to be the next person to fill his father's shoes. So maybe that makes sense. Maybe that's why, but Think about it. It is kind of strange. I am curious that based on this, if in the future we will see teams that are only currently in amateur league that are really hungry for a spot in pro league. The lore would be that as you're playing them, they're technically actually just amateur league. That would be really interesting to flesh out the universe a bit. It would expand the relatability within some of the characters. That's the theory I think we'll see. So what did you think about this different take on exploring lore? What theories do you have on it? I have more ideas like this, such as who the heck is Zentaro's grandfather? And let me know if something like that interests you, because I'd love to dive deeper into that. And while you're down in the comments, would you mind subscribing? I'd like to partner with Odyssey Interactive, if possible, through the partnership program, and hopefully get closer to them and get the scoop on more lore to roll out to you guys. And to do that, I would have to hit 2,000 subscribers. I know we can do this together. Let's raid the lore vaults together. I'll become a channel where I can bring all the lore into one place, because right now it's kind of scattered. I'd love to do that for you guys. I'm hella addicted to this game. It's something I'd be more than willing to do. It's not even a sacrifice for me. It's straight up a passion. I would love to be the lore channel if possible. Till next time, Strikers, I love and appreciate you guys. Snog out.